The college football experience, Boise State Broncos 2024 season preview episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You need to win up to, or you need to, but you can win up to 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8. Sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer of up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they do have college football action. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. And remember, as always, folks, too, let it ride.
Hey, what's up, you degenerate gamblers? This is Bill Burr, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, baby.
Football experience, Boise State Broncos, buckle Broncos 2024 season preview episode. It's another kind of a turnover year from a coaching standpoint with Boise State obviously breaking in a brand new head coach, and I feel like this has been kind of a similar thing for them over the past 10 years, just every so often bringing in a brand new head coach. So we're going to talk all about that. But hey, there is a 12-team playoff going on this year with a group of 5 auto bid. And a lot of people think Boise State would be at the top of that list for a team that could potentially make the CFP. We're going to talk all about it, folks. If you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, my name is Colby Swiggin, Database Dad, a.k.a. Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
And you're nothing but a chameleon, lemon-headed, coward, terrorist pussy. And I'm after you, buddy. You're going to pay for it. Good night.
Yes. That's what they were saying to the BCS a long time ago. They were saying, hey, we've got undefeated seasons, not just seasons. And you're not letting us have a seat at the table. And now we got us a seat at the table somewhat. Yeah, I'd like an auto bid. Because even last year, where they fired a coach, they still won the Mountain West. This Boise State school is just phenomenal. I am joined by my co-host. Hopefully you're watching youtube.com/the college experience. Hit that like and subscribe button. Also, please, if you can, hop over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review. Ooh, we are excited to talk Boise State. Me and him have been to this game, been to the stadium on the Smurf turf there, out, Bronco Stadium, I like to call it. Give it up for the rooftop IPA drinking, home brew making, tobacco road living, the free lot giving. Farmer, Herndon Basketball League MVP. Give it up for NC Nick in the place to be.
There we go. What's going on, man?
I mean, 12-team playoffs. What's going on? There's optimism in Boise now. We can do this. And not only can we do this, we can beat these teams. We've been doing it for 20 years.
Boise's not afraid of anybody.
Yes, and it is. I'm curious to see what you think of the Spencer Danielson hire / retaining. He was the interim head coach after Andy Avalos had gotten fired. You look back, he went 3-1 as a interim head coach. Lost the bowl game to UCLA and Chip Kelly, but. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's bring up these slides. It should
be noted with that bowl game too. I mean, they were starting a quarterback who came into the season, I think, 3rd string. He had never gotten a snap before taking the first snap of that Los Angeles Bowl. So, there's a very nice built-in excuse as to why they didn't beat UCLA. I don't put that against Danielson.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a good point. And it was in LA too. It was like a home game for UCLA, but no one showed up. So it was like a home game for UCLA. Looking at the other first year coaches in Boise, you had Andy Avalo 7-5 in year one. Obviously his tenure former Bronco himself. I remember when he had a pick six at a big pivotal bowl game for them. But my point is that there's a high level of expectation there. Andy Avalos was what? He was like 17-9 in his first two games or first two seasons, and he got fired midway through game year or the third year there. So high expectations in Boise there. And you look back at some of the other coaches' first years. Harsin was 12-2. Peterson was 13-0 in year one.
Pretty good year one.
Hawkins was 8-4. Dirk Cutter was 6-5. I mean, what is a good first year for Spencer Danielson?
Well, I think he's got a pretty good team. I think he's got a lot of talent on the squad, and he's got a decent schedule. So I think you got to win at least not go 9-3. I think Boise's happy. Anything less than that, and it's probably about a record that Andy Avalos could have put together.
Yeah. Well, look, we're gonna talk a little bit about this because I think with the 12-team playoff looming, there's many angles to what do they say? Slice the onion with, or whatever, peel the onion with, some shit like that. But I want to tell you folks out there that you're listening to the College Football Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And we're breaking down all 134 teams with a solo podcast for every single team in the land. So make sure you subscribe and tell a friend. Pretty much an hour dedicated to every college football team in the land. Plus SGPN's 5-minute fantasy football show. The Fantasy Football Gambling Podcast is your quick and dirty podcast to getting you prepped and ready for the NFL season and fantasy football. So check out both those as football season never ends on SGPN. All right, we are back and breaking down Boise State. They haven't had a losing season since 1997.
It's remarkable.
That's the longest winning streak in the country for, I believe, not having a losing season. And then, so you have this 12-team playoff. Is it better? Because a lot of people said, well, Boise should have been in part of Big 12 expansion or the ACC expansion. And I wonder, is it better to be, obviously you're not getting the yearly checks, the TV check as good as the Big 12 or ACC, but the path might a lot clearer to the 12-team playoff. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always hard to turn down larger checks. So if Boise was given an invitation to a larger league, I think they would probably take them up on that. But as far as making the college football playoff, the Mountain West is probably, or most likely, the top G5 conference, which means the winner of the Mountain West has a pretty good chance of making the college football playoff. And Boise is the favorite to do that this year.
Yeah. And speaking of big games, if they do get in, big game Boise is ready. All right, look at the teams. And some of these have multiple. I want to say they have 3 wins over Oregon. So multiple wins against Oregon, multiple wins against Washington and Oregon State. If you're not watching youtube.com/the college experience, they've beaten, it doesn't matter who, like they've owned the Mountain West and the WAC in this run since 1997, where they haven't had a losing season. They've beaten national championship quality. I mean, look at those. I mean, the first 6 teams there have all played for a national championship. You know what I mean? Florida State, Georgia, Oklahoma, Virginia Tech, Washington, Oregon. They've beaten all of those teams.
TCU has also.
Yeah. So 7 teams. Utah should have. It is one of the more remarkable runs. I know, App State has stolen a little bit of the mojo. It's like, oh, you don't want to schedule them, but Boise's the real team. You don't
Oh,
want
for
to schedule.
sure.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, for those that might not know, we cover college football at the national level. But over the years of just being huge college football fans, there's a handful of programs across the country which we've really just enjoyed rooting for and have a fondness for. And Boise's definitely one of them. Whether it was started off with the blue turf or the big upsets like the game against Oklahoma, and then going to some of the games, going up to Boise. First off, I love the city of Boise. I'm not a big city guy. You can have LA, New York, Atlanta. I like a smaller size city, kind of like where I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Boise, I just, big fan of the city, and the people of Boise and the fans of the Broncos are also fantastic. Not only do we see a BYU Boise game up there, but we also watched Boise beat Virginia Tech in FedEx in Landover, Maryland, a decade ago.
Awesome game. Yeah.
Is that the only 2 Boise games you've been to? I guess that's the only 2 for me.
I think so. I'm trying to.
But the fans are wonderful. Just really nice people, very knowledgeable, very intelligent, very welcoming. Come over here, have a beer with us. Just good people. So I love Idaho and Boise in general.
Yeah, and shout out to Robert in the chat. He goes, "How do they get these games? Most G5 teams can get these can't get these games scheduled." Well, actually, Boise, it's been a real problem for Boise lately. And notice how most of these, none of these are on the Smurf turf. I feel like there's like one Oregon one where they got the dude got punched in the face, and
Garrett Blunt.
Yeah, and Virginia, I think, did a home and home. Washington State might have too. But if you're looking at Virginia Tech, they played in Maryland, which was an all Virginia Tech crowd for the most part. Oklahoma was out. Well, was the Fiesta Bowl. Georgia was in the state of Georgia. Florida State was in the state of Florida in Tallahassee there at Doak Campbell. So most of these have been, at true away games for them. But so they're not doing home and homes. But I'll say it has been a thing that I've heard their AD over the past couple of years, or it might have been a rotating chair of their athletic directors, but it's a problem for them. They don't have normally teams don't want to play them.
They're not stupid. They know it's going to be a real live game, and what's their winning scenario? Like if you're Florida State or Alabama or something, you're supposed to beat Boise. But if you don't, then it's a huge blow. And that's definitely the case when it was only a 14 playoff also, where one loss could really knock you out early on in the season. So I don't know. Maybe now that the playoff has been expanded, maybe more teams will be willing to take on Boise, but I wouldn't be surprised
Notre
if they
Dame
don't.
is next year. Notre Dame is. So that was added to the schedule. So I do get the feeling that maybe that happens. And another thing is COVID wiped off. I believe Florida State was supposed to play on the Smurf turf that year.
Wow.
And COVID, obviously every schedule they stuck to their conferences and stuff. But it's something to note. But I know it's been a struggle for them. It's been a struggle for a few schools. I think if you're at the top level, I think I've heard Memphis's athletic director say like, okay, we're trying to schedule these games. It's hard. They want ULM. You see how many times ULM and UMass are on the SEC schedule,
right?
You know what I mean? Or Akron. So but I think if there's a 12-team playoff, watch out. Now, Spencer Danielson needs to prove it to me a little bit, but the proof's in the pudding. It's kind of coach proof too. I mean, even Avalos, it's not like he lost with Boise. He just lost more often than other coaches.
They have a very high standard now, and they should, because they've been that good for so long. But yeah, Danielson, I mean, I think he kind of righted the ship. Last year was kind of a mess. They were 5-5? No, 5-4 under Avalos last year before he was shit-canned.
But one was on a Hail Mary.
Yeah, sure. But look, he's only 35 years old. So Danielson's a young guy. He hasn't really coached anywhere other than Boise, unless you a couple years as a linebacker coach for Azusa Pacific, where he went. To school.
Christian Okoye's alma mater. They have since closed the doors on college football. Unfortunately,
7 years ago he was a GA at Boise, so he quickly moved up the ranks. But you're right, there's not a whole lot of experience, on his resume. So I think it's fair to have question marks Can he, really be the top dog at Boise and lead them to double-digit win seasons?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's take a look at that offense from a year ago. Now he did bring in Dirk Cutter, who's the former. That's what I do love is the family. It's like go listen to the Dan Hawkins interview that I had. Dan Hawkins a couple weeks ago came on the show, talked about him, Dirk Cutter, and Chris Peterson, kind of the brains behind building up Boise State. It's a really good interview on that. But Dirk Cutter back in town as the OC. He was like an offensive analyst, I think, and then when they fired him, when they fired Avalos, they brought him in as OC. Or no, I think that was with Tim Plow. But last season, 95th in scoring per game. So they were third in the Mountain West, essentially at scoring per game. I actually think I might have messed up those numbers. But anyway, let's look at this offense. I will tell you this: they were third in the Mountain West, second in the Mountain West in total yards, sixth in passing yards, and second in rushing yards. Those are all accurate. But the offense took a major hit because Taylor Green is gone. He is now at Arkansas. How big of a loss is that, you think?
Look, we were all expecting him to have a fantastic sophomore campaign after a nice freshman season, and it didn't. He never really put it together. He didn't have a breakout like we thought. He was dripping with talent. He's very athletic, dangerous with his legs, but it seemed like his grasp of the offense didn't improve that much. His accuracy wasn't great. I still think he has a very high ceiling and could even turn into an NFL quarterback. So maybe a change of scenery was good for him. And, that they have some options at quarterback for this year. So I don't think he's going to be missed that greatly.
Yeah. And they went out and got, we'll talk about this, but Ashton Jeanty, 6 starters are back on the offensive side of the ball. Latrell Coples, I know, played him in DFS before. But Ashton Jeanty is a complete stud. And they said that a bunch of teams came in to tamper with him, and he stayed the course. I know you've used you're a GT fan. I feel like you've our DFS episodes in the fall, you've loaded up on him often.
Oh, he's an animal, man. He's one of the best running backs in the country. I don't care if you say G5 or P4. He's one of the best running backs in the country.
Yeah, and he's back. So I mean, the 3 offensive linemen back: Coples, Matthew Lauter, the tight end is back, and then Ashton Jeanty at the running back spot. I think that's a solid core. Obviously, you'd like to get more back, but kicker and punter are back as well in case it's a close game. I think that matters. But
some of the other big names that are gone, on offense is George Holani. I mean, it was a great 1-2 punch at running back with him and Jeanty. I still think Boise is going to be completely fine at running back. I mean, Holani, he was there for 4 or 5 years, very good college player. I think he's signed with some NFL team. He'll be missed, but they're going to be fine at running back. Eric McAllister is another receiver who transferred out. I think he landed at TCU.
Yes.
He is very good. I mean, he had 800 yards, 5 touchdowns on a bad passing team last year. He'll be missed. But they've done some things at receiver. And I think at receiver in general is an area of concern because not only did McAllister transfer out, but Cobbs and Bowens exhausted their eligibility. So there's some question marks at quarterback, some question marks at receiver. I think the offensive line is going to be just fine, and the running game is going to be fine. So overall, there's some pieces to, some question marks, but I think Boise is going to be fine offensively.
Malachi Nelson is the thing. How this is a guy that was a 5-star recruit at USC. He comes in, and this is a guy that we haven't seen him really get much reps. So okay, what do we expect here? How fast can he be efficient? And they're definitely he's definitely gonna be more accurate than Taylor Green. He's a different style of quarterback than Taylor Green, but I think the season might fringe on that. Now, Cam Camper was a wide receiver they brought in from Indiana that I like. I think that's a good addition to this team. Cooper Jones at the running back spot. Now, I'm intrigued to see what they can do with him in the offense, but he is also a guy that is a great punt returner and kick returner. So I like that addition. Tight end Mitchell Bothwell, great name, coming in from Villanova, good FCS program there. And then Connor Gilbreth coming in from LSU. And then Jake Steele from San Jose State, and I think he's penciled in to be a starter.
Bless you.
Yeah. Excuse me. But and I miss Ivan Ian in the chat is saying you're missing the Marshall receiver. Did they get one?
Yeah, so no, it's Chris Marshall. So Chris Marshall is a former 5-star, spent time at A&M and Ole Miss.
I missed that
before going to the JUCO rank. So he had some, I don't know what his issues were, but I don't know if they were legal issues or he had a little bit of a history. But obviously he has a lot of talent. So I think with bringing in Chris Marshall and Cam Camper's a guy who's had injuries last couple of years for Indiana, but he's had some monster games in his career. Like 2 years ago, he had 10 for 126 against Cincy. He had 11 for 156 against the Illini. If he can stay healthy, and if Chris Marshall can put his previous issues in the past and finally start to realize that all that talent, I think they could be fine at receiver too. And also at quarterback, Maddox Madsen also returns. He's a guy who took over for Taylor Green when he was benched before he got out for the year last year. So I think you got two decent options. I think Nelson obviously has a higher ceiling, so he's probably going to get the start. But it's nice to have two guys with some experience.
I almost feel like he's got to start. Like I feel like that's probably the offer that they gave him. But saying come here and start. But I don't know. It's interesting because another thing, Spencer Danielson said some things about NIL, saying, we're not going to be going out and he goes, we keep our money in house. Like we're going to develop you. And I kind of like that approach of we have some money to deal out, but we're going to help our players that have committed to us, and we're not just going to pay some people from the outside to just come in here. I kind of dig that.
I like it. I mean, you see, in the portal in general, they only lost a handful of guys, and they only brought in a handful of guys. So it wasn't like one of these teams like Ole Miss or something where they're 20 people are exiting, 20 people are entering, and you're trying to figure out who might start. So Boise kind of keeps it all in the family, and I do respect that.
We're going to talk about the defense, but before I do that, I want to tell you that the college football experience Boise State Broncos 2024 season preview is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8's now live. Create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry with more picks to make and extra ways to win. The excitement is higher than ever. And the best part is you can win up to 325 times the amount you originally enter. You can also now use specials and boost on all flexed entries. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. Sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they do have college football action, which we play all the time. So check it out right now. I'm playing CFL over there. All right. Underdogfantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. All right. Defensive side of, and that's who they lost, by the way. Just so you didn't lose a ton. McAllister to TCU, Taylor Green to Arkansas. Yes, CJ Tiller went to Utah State and Rick Moore to Old Dominion. And
Tiller's the quarterback that started the bowl game against UCLA. I think Green and McAllister are the only ones that were impact players.
Yeah. The defense was pretty damn good a season ago. They were 4th in the Mountain West. The only thing is the pass defense.
Awful.
11th out of 12 in the Mountain West, that's just not Boise stats right there. When it comes to that, giving up 251.9 yards per game is not Boise like. Now they did lose some guys, like you said, but on the defensive side of the ball, those losses, most of them are still in the portal. We'll see where they end up, but doesn't seem that substantial. And I can tell you this, there's only one way to get better. I guess there's 2 ways to get better. You can just bring in a brand new roster, or you bring back all 11 starters on the defensive side of the ball, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, overall, it's 82% of the production on defense returns, which is 5th highest in the nation.
I mean, that is very, very impressive. Now, the question is can they actually? They need to improve a lot.
Especially the secondary. I think the run defense was fine. I think that guy on the edge, Ahmad Hassaninen, had 12.5 sacks last year. And they also were kind of very selective in the portal to bring in some potential starters too.
Yeah. So It's got to be encouraging though. If you won the Mountain West last year and you bring back the entire defense,
for sure.
You won the Mountain West with 2 coaches, a Hail Mary touchdown against you. You know what I mean? Like,
And I feel like that secondary, while it struggled last year, they were playing a lot better towards the end of the year. And some of those stats might have been jaded by that Washington game where Penix threw for like 450 on him or something.
Yeah, out the gate. Yeah, it's a good point. They did go out and add Tavian Woodward from Ball State. Patty C's boys also added a couple guys in the secondary. Devon Banks from Washington played for the team that played in the national championship, and Jeremiah Irby from the California Golden Bears.
I know Irby started for Cal and is expected to start for Boise as well. But all 3 of those guys are should be impact players.
I mean, so what is the weakness of this team right now? Pass defense
and the question marks on offense
and the quarterback spot.
Yeah,
maybe the receivers. But
yeah,
it seems like they've went out and
I think if you're talking about positions of weakness or at least position of question, it's still the secondary, it's the receivers and the quarterback.
Yeah. But I mean, you brought in a 5-star. You know how many schools have a 5-star quarterback starting for them? It's not that many.
And they brought in a 5-star receiver in Chris Marshall.
Yeah.
So, I like their additions this year, definitely.
It's going to be exciting to watch. We're gonna go game by game on the schedule here. But before I do that, I want to tell you that the Boise State season preview is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. So claim your free 7-day trial period today. All right. Plus, it's never too early to start your NFL projections. But claim that free 7-day trial period today. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. All right. Let's take a look at this. The win total set at 9. That surprise you?
No, it's Boise. Come on, man. I mean, so they went 7-5 in the regular season last year, and I double checked it, and Avalos was 5-5 before he left. So I think Boise's win total is always right around here. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. You?
No, I thought it might be 9.5. Seeing flat 9 right now. To win the Mountain West Championship, they're at +125. So the odds-on favorite to win the Mountain West this year, which means they'd probably be the odds-on favorite to make the 12-team playoff. To win the national championship plus 40,000. But look, the 12-team playoff odds I think will come out at some point.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the group of 5 ones really out there yet, but
we also should mention as far as the win total, it's juiced a little bit on the over. It's -120 on the over, -110 on the under. So not crazy juice there.
Yeah. So let's. I mean, would you consider a +125 to win the Mountain West, or would you just go the over or under?
Yeah, I think at that point you go over under. +120. I mean, I do think Boise is probably going to end up winning the Mountain West, but +125, I don't think is juicy enough.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this schedule. I power rank these things, which I think would be, if you look at what those numbers are on the right, what I think would be the easiest being 12 and the hardest being 1. So they open up the season with back-to-back away games. That's challenging. at Georgia Southern, going to Statesboro, take on your Sun Belt.
Right now, they are 10-point favorites on the road across country.
I mean, I think they'll win the game, but I might take the 10.
I do think laying 10 is I don't feel great about that. I agree with what you just said. Boise wins, but I think this game could be closer than 10. I just feel like Georgia Southern in the beginning of the season has been pretty good the last couple years.
Won at Nebraska.
Yeah.
It's really November that's been their nightmare.
Right. I don't feel comfortable laying double digits, but I do think Boise gets out of there with a win.
Yeah, and then they
If we could quickly, 1 second, talk about their schedule in general, though. The one glaring thing which you don't see on there is no Air Force, no Fresno. That's huge within the Mountain West.
and I'll even raise you one higher. I know you're gonna laugh at this. There's no New Mexico, but Bronco Mendenhall kind of had their number, man. So like he won when he took UVA into Boise and won. It's strange. Bronco Mendenhall, I feel like, plays Boise State really well.
Yeah.
You don't. I know it's year one in New Mexico, and they're probably horrible, and they should win. But that if you're setting that line, it's probably minus 24 or something. But still, I still think you never know. And Mendenhall seems to historically, whether it was at BYU late in his career or, like I said, when he came into UVA and went to the Smurf turf and won. It's a little break. I'd say it's a little something to think about. But another thing to consider here is Georgia Southern. Their non-con is Georgia Southern, Oregon, Washington State, and Portland State. So I mean, it's a pretty good non-con.
Does Oregon State count as that too?
It does. Yes, that's right. It does, and Oregon State too. That's right, because everyone's playing one less game. So getting Wazoo and Oregon State in Boise. That's huge.
A key. That's a key that they're not going on the road to face either of those teams. So overall, I think, I mean, looking at it at first glance, they might only be a dog in one game.
And that's the Ducks game you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think that, how do you think that game will go?
Against the Ducks?
Yeah.
Oregon's probably, I mean, they're a top 5 team, top 10 team this year. While I love Boise, while I know they're not afraid to go in and face anybody, they're going to have a hard time getting that W. Could they? Sure. But I think we have to give it to Oregon.
Boise's 3-0 against Oregon. just throwing that out there. And that's all since 2008. And that stretch, Oregon's been to 2 national championships, right?
I would love it. I would love to see them go into Eugene and get a W. I'll say it's possible, but highly unlikely.
I think I'm with you. I think Oregon's the loss. There'll be 1-1, and then they come home to take on Portland State. I think Portland State might be a decent FCS this year, but that still should be a win. 2-1 there. Then Washington State comes to town. I'm intrigued by this matchup, but it's on the Smurf turf. I'm going to favor Boise.
I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a good game, but on the Smurf turf, I'm going to favor Boise as well.
So we got him 3-1, and
James S. in the chat says he's already taken Boise -10. He has no problem laying the points. I like it.
All right, there we go. Then they are home to Utah State, and Blake Anderson. They should get him. To me, on the Smurf turf, if it was in Logan, is when but Boise just has a history of really fucking up Utah State.
This was also Danielson's first game as head coach last year. It was against Utah State, and they ran for 350 yards. I expect some more of that.
Well, I don't get brain bag.
Lou Holtz has something to say about that. But then they head to the Ching Complex down there on the island. Bring your membership to take on the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. And I mean, I think Timmy Chang's going to have Hawaii bowling this year, but this is a win.
Yeah, I think so. Hawaii's better. They're improving slowly. But I got no problem with Boise going to Hawaii and getting that done.
Then they get a bye week, and then they head to this filthy stadium that has no place in college football. Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. It should be Sam Boyd.
They just played there, right? No, hold on.
They played the Mountain West Championship there.
Yeah. So they beat UNLV 44-20. They ran for over 300 in that game. And again, I don't think UNLV has much of a home field advantage there. So I think Boise chalk up another W.
Yeah. Now comes in Sean Lewis and San Diego State. I am a little intrigued by this matchup, but could this one be flying under the radar?
It remains to be seen. I mean, how much can San Diego State improve in a very short period of time? Again, I think San Diego State's going to be better than the last couple of years, sure, but I don't have them going into Boise and getting a W.
Yeah, I got to lean Boise here, especially in November.
I think if I can make a prediction, I think we're going to end up having the same record and the same second loss.
Up in a few
weeks.
I think that's it. Then they are home to the Nevada Wolfpack and Jeff Choate, new coach there.
That's a win.
Yeah. You gotta like the fact how many new coaches are on this. You got 3 or 4 new coaches on the schedule. Right here, their final 4 games are all against new head coach. Final 5 games are all against new head coaches.
Wow.
San Diego State with
now usually you would want that in the beginning of the season rather than the end, but
True.
still it's a nice thing,
good thing. Yeah. So they're home to Nevada on November 9th. I think that is a win as well. They head to San Jose to take on Ken Niumatalolo and San Jose State. They're shifting their philosophy. They're going to be running the run and shoot there.
That's going to take a little while to get that going.
Yeah, and then they head back-to-back away. They head to Laramie. Now, Jay Sauvel is, he was the DC at Wyoming, so I don't think it's that big of a. They're going to be doing the same stuff. Now I will say this: Boise has had Wyoming's number. It's been some close games, but I want to say like Wyoming's only got them like once in the past like 20 years. But yeah, 17-1 is what that series is at, right? But the games have been close, man. Like Wyoming should have won on the Smurf turf a couple years ago, lost in overtime, but had a chance to win it outright. I guess the last time they played was not close in 32-7, but some of the others 20-17 Boise wins in 2022, 23-13 in 2021, right? 17-9 in 2020, no fans. 20-17 in overtime in 2019. So they've been knocking on that door. 30-28. It's just been. I do think it's a dangerous game, though. I think it's a very dangerous game because it's been right around 1-score games for almost a good chunk of these matchups ever since Craig Bowl came in.
Especially being the second half of the back-to-back road trips. You wonder how many of those previous games were like that. That's just a really tough spot. We already have a kick time at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So it might start with daylight, but it's going to get dark. It's going to get cold. Who knows what kind of weather we can get in Laramie in late November. I see a second loss on this schedule somewhere. I'm going to say this is it. But if not this, then maybe they do drop one of the home games to the Pac-2 teams. I see a second loss. I'm going to say that Boise State goes undefeated at home. They lose at Oregon, and Wyoming sneaks up and gets them here. And that could be a very big loss if you're looking at a potential to make it to the college football playoffs also.
True. Now, yeah, let's just say we both have them losing in Laramie because I think we do.
Yeah.
And they beat Oregon State to end the season. I'll say this though, if they only have 2 losses and one is to Oregon and one is to Wyoming,
it's pretty good.
I think they would probably still get in over undefeated Liberty.
Well, they would definitely, assuming that they only have 1 loss in conference. They are probably most likely going to go to the conference championship game where they could again get another big win under their belt, whether it be against Fresno or who knows, Air Force or something. So, I mean, if they do go 10-2 and then 11-2, they're going to be right there in the mix. But we don't know what Liberty is going to go or Memphis's record or somebody in the Sun Belt. I think they have a good chance, but I think if you're really, if you're 11-1, 12-0, like what if Liberty goes 12-0, but Boise goes 10-2?
I think you should put Boise in there.
Personally, I think Boise would be the better team for sure.
Well, schedule is just so much, and Liberty just got worked by Oregon a year, but in December or January by like 40 points.
Yeah. I just have no idea how the committee is going to make that call.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild.
I think it's easy enough if there's just one game difference. If it's 12-0 versus 11-1, but 12-0 versus 10-2, I just don't know how they're gonna look at that.
And you know what game I actually think is one of their more scary games? It's the Georgia Southern game. The more I think about it.
Well, I mean, you're breaking in a new quarterback.
It'll be like 110 degrees.
It's gonna be hot for sure. Yeah, that's if they start off 0-2. I mean, that would not be a good way for Danielson to start off his tenure. I still think they get Georgia Southern, but would it totally surprise me if they lose? No.
Well, Georgia Southern's got a knack of winning in the month of September. To me,
Look, over the last couple of years, Georgia Southern has beat Nebraska. They've almost beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin.
That score is deceiving too. I think people will say, "Oh, Wisconsin won by 21." That was like a 10-10 game in the fourth. You know, like, or so it was a 14-14 in the fourth, something like that. I think they're a dangerous team. That's a more dangerous game than we think. Like, I almost think if you told me like Oregon State could beat them on November 30th, I think their chances of losing are higher against Georgia Southern than Oregon State.
Potentially. Look, 2 years ago, Georgia Southern beat JMU and App State. You know, they have some nice wins. Now they've been, I think, 6-6 or 7-5 both years. So the consistency is an issue, but it does seem like they get up for the big games.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be, I'm on the over though. You're on the over.
I'm definitely on the over. And I think, you know, especially with it being at 9 instead of 9.5, like, I don't see a scenario where Boise goes 8-4 and the under cashes. I really like the over here. It might be on my locks.
I think I might. Yeah, I'm in the middle of previewing all these teams, but I can tell you this. It certainly might make my top 10 locks, you know, or it's right there. I feel pretty good about this one. Because the worst case scenario, they lose to Georgia. Like, to me, Georgia Southern, Oregon, and Wyoming.
Right. I just think the defense is going to be very good. I love the running game. And when you got very talented pieces at quarterback and receiver, if they can play anywhere near what their ceiling is, then this team could be really good.
And you got Wazoo and Oregon State coming to the Smurf turf. Like, your bowl teams from a season ago, for the most part, are coming to the Smurf turf.
Like I said earlier, I think they're probably only a dog in one game. How many teams can say they're only going to be a dog in one game this year? Not many.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 nationally.
Yeah. I'm on the over. He's on the over. And how about this? Are they in the 12-team playoff this year?
Sure. Look, I'm that much high on the over, then I'll say yes. I'll say Boise gets it. And rightfully so. They should be the first G5 team to get in the playoffs because they have the longest track record of anybody else in the G5 right now.
Yeah, I think you got to lean that way. I know some people say Memphis, some people say UTSA, some people say Fresno. That's the one thing too, is like, what happens if Fresno, since they don't play, if Fresno beats them, I wonder who would get the home game then. We'd have to go through. We'll go. Yeah. Well, Fresno's the next team that I got to break down.
It's funny you mentioned those two teams because Boise lost to Memphis and Fresno last year. Two great games. They were both on the road, both 1-score games. So that tells you that Boise's record last year wasn't that great. But I mean, the home game against UCF was right there for the taking.
Oh my God, they had that. UCF didn't deserve to win that.
Right. Game. The Memphis loss was 35-32. The Colorado State loss on the road, 31-30. The Fresno State loss on the road, 37-30. It was, I mean, really, Washington whooped their ass week 1. Other than that, the other 4 losses were just, I mean, right there where they should have probably won
the Colorado State game. They had like a 11-point lead with like a minute and a half left, and they lost because of
how often does your running back Ashton Jeanty go for over 200 yards rushing and you lose the game?
Yeah, that was just a freak occurrence. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see Boise in the playoffs. Let's go. I'm on the over. NC Nick's on the over, and you need to get on over to YouTube or wherever you get your podcast and subscribe to the College Football Experience because we're just getting started. Off-season talk. We've already previewed all the SEC teams, and we and the Air Force Falcons and the Colorado State Rams. All those are out. Fresno State next on deck. So subscribe, tell a friend. YouTube.com/The College Experience. Get on over there, hit that like and subscribe button. Also, subscribe wherever podcasts can be found. get on over there. Give us a 5-star review. Let's go. All right. iTunes. Say some good things about this damn show. All right. Yeah, check out the Sports Gambling Podcast. We're part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Check out the FCS College Football Experience. Maybe you're a Portland State fan coming to hear about your Vikings. Check out that. And also check out the Stadium Heads Podcast. Myself, Michael Barker, a.k.a. College Football Campus Tour. We talk about the history of the stadiums in college football. And we just dropped the Mountain West and Pac-2 stadiums episode on the Stadium Heads Podcast. And also, you will catch me at Mountain West Media Day. I'll be able to meet Spencer Danielson and talk about this Boise team, and I'm looking forward to it. So if you're going out to Mountain West Media Day, let me know. Meet up at the Circa. Great spot if you haven't been in Las Vegas. So also give NC Nick a follow on Twitter at NC__NICK on Twitter or X. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. The College Football Experience is on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. Let's go. Can't wait for the season. Buckle Broncos, right? This is the College Football Experience. Boise State Broncos style. We'll see you in the 12-team playoff. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot.